to the ashes. The spirits light up the night, looking down the edge of forever. So stop me or take my advice.
Now, from the Untold Radio Network, it's Untold Radio AM with Doug and Alex Hijack.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Untold Radio. Tonight, Doug is away. He's filming in Canada for Legend Meets Science 2. But we're in great hands with our guest host, my girlfriend, best friend, and no stranger to the paranormal, Ilse.
Hi everyone, I'm super happy to be here tonight. And like Alex said, I'll be filling in for Doug. I know those are some pretty big shoes to fill. So bear with me, please. I'm a longtime listener, but first-time podcaster. Our special guest tonight is none other than Paul G. Buckner, the acclaimed author of Bigfoot, UFOs, and the Paranormal True Encounters.
So tonight, delve with us into the mysterious tales of eerie forests, unexplained phenomenon, and moments that challenge your understanding of reality. Prepare for a night of true encounters and chilling tales only on Untold Radio. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Oh, great. Thanks. Glad to be here. Very exciting.
So, first, if you want to begin, how did you get into Bigfoot? Was there a formative experience? Did you have an encounter? How did this happen for you, your journey?
Oh, wow. That's the thing that I find most fascinating is how everyone gets into it, gets involved with it. Because first and foremost, whether you believe in Bigfoot or not, it's still very exciting just to think about it, and it's always a fun story. But when I was a kid, probably 10 years old, this wasn't my personal experience, but it was my aunt, and this is what got me most interested in this whole Bigfoot thing. Late 70s, so not very long after the legend of Boggy Creek, of course, everyone, reverts back to that at some point or another. But I don't know. I went to work with my dad one day during the summertime, and during the summertime, back here in Oklahoma, when you're a 10-year-old boy, all you want to do is run and play and just goof off all summer long. Well, my plans kind of got a little bit thwarted when Dad said, "Hey, you're coming to work with me." Dad worked in construction, and he worked with his brothers, and my cousin was about my same age, and apparently we both had plans made for us that particular summer. And they worked in construction, building houses. And this one particular summer, I had gotten up early and went to work with Dad. And when I got there, my cousin was already there, and we were just kind of messing around all day, really, just kind of trying to stay out of trouble and stay out of their way. I think it was just a way for them to keep me out of Mom's hair, But it was, in the late 70s, nobody had cell phones back then. But I remember it was just after noon, after lunch, when a neighbor from a house that my dad and my uncle were working on, a neighbor comes over there and asks us, me and my cousin, "Hey, where's your dad at?" We told him, "Well, they're in the house working. They're probably in the back." So he goes in there and they have this short conversation. Next thing I know, my dad and my uncle are hurrying outside. They tell me and my cousin to get into the truck. And so we jump in the back of the truck and away we go. My uncle lived in this place called England Hollow, and I grew up in Stillwell, Oklahoma, which is just a small town, northeastern Oklahoma, the foothills of the Ozark Mountains, really. And we jumped in the truck and we drove pretty quickly to get to my uncle's house, and it was probably a good half hour away. But I remember when we get there, we pull up to the house and the whole house is just dark, and all the lights are off. It doesn't look like anybody's home. The doors are locked, and my uncle's scrambling for his keys now, and he finally gets the door unlocked. And we get into the house, and he finds my aunt in the back room, along with my other younger cousin. She was with her. But she finally comes into the living room. She's all shaken, and she's just still terrified. And she's telling this story to my dad and my uncle that she was outside hanging laundry. And when she saw this thing, she said she was just, and you got to remember where she's at is a very remote area there in England Hollow, and just surrounded by woods and a couple of pastures on each side. And they have a small barn out there, and they raise some cattle. And she said she's outside hanging laundry, and she notices something or someone out in this pasture. She said it was still quite a ways away. And she just really didn't think much about it. She thought, well, it's probably just another cow or a horse or something in the pasture. And she just continued on hanging the laundry. But then she noticed it would get closer to her. And then at one point, she said she turned away and looked back up, and it was gone. Right? So she thought, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. I don't see it anywhere else. And then she heard something down at the barn. And she said that's what really scared her, because she saw this thing. She said it was not a cow, wasn't a horse, wasn't a bear. It was on two legs. And
oh wow.
At that point, what was did you say the time of day? Was it night? Was it evening? Afternoon?
Well, this was when the neighbor came over and got my dad and uncle. It was just a little bit after noon, so it had to have happened around noon.
Yeah,
know. So in the middle of the day, and when she saw this, and she said at that point, I mean, she was just shaken, terrified, and because she saw it, it wasn't more than 100 yards away to that barn. She could very clearly see that, and by the time she got around to the front of the house, she said it had grabbed one of the small calves, and apparently was carrying that calf off. And she ran into the house, got my cousin, and locked the doors. And that's when she got on the phone and called the neighbor.
Oh wow!
Now, my aunt, she's you gotta know, she was a stay-at-home mom. And a very devout Christian lady. She was just not prone to storytelling whatsoever. That's just not her MO. You could tell that she was scared. I still remember this from when I was a kid. I mean, she was trembling, just shaking, and telling the story. So at that point,
it sounds like at that point she didn't identify it as Bigfoot. Maybe she wasn't even aware of what a Bigfoot was. Because I think you used the words thing. She saw this thing, like otherworldly thing for her, right, to be seen.
Right, absolutely. Because at that time, late 70s, she wasn't aware of Bigfoot or hadn't seen any of those movies or anything. I don't think she even watched TV much at all. So it was a very, very strange phenomenon to her to see something like this. And I think that's what really scared her more than anything. She had no idea.
So
but,
at what point did you guys, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
At what point did she make the connection or pieced it together that it could be a Bigfoot?
At that point, she didn't, but it was a few days later. I remember then it was all brought up, and we were all talking about it, and that's when it was kind of starting to fit together, because at that time, there was another incident that happened not too long after that in a place called Dutch Mills, Arkansas, just right down the road. Because where we lived, it was basically right there in northeast Oklahoma on that Arkansas border. So very, very close. And with a few incidents like this happened and get reported, starting putting two and two together, and then it's Bigfoot.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't imagine even just seeing that in the middle of the night.
So, and you said you were a kid at this point when your aunt had this experience,
right?
So what's going through your head? Did you take right to it, or were you skeptical? Were you intrigued? Did you want to see one yourself? What what's going through your head at this point?
Well, I think at that point, when you're about 10 years old and you see other people's reactions and stuff, you tend to almost mimic their reactions. So it was very exciting, but scary at the same time.
Exactly. So let's fast forward here. So this happens, right? Was there a period of time where you grew up, maybe put it out of your mind, or were there other occurrences in the town that kept your interest? Like, what happened after that?
Well, like I said, immediately after that, there were a few reports around. The one that happened in Dutch Mills, Arkansas, for instance, that was just days after this. And it was a story about a Bigfoot that apparently had broken into a chicken house late at night, and a farmer had went outside and caught it and shot at it. But it had ripped the door off of this chicken house. And this was like the big commercial chicken houses, I don't know how many, 60,000 chickens or something like that in those big grow houses. But it had ripped one of those big metal doors off and stolen chickens. And this farmer had shot at it. And this was in the paper and just going around the community and everything, just reports around everywhere. But it just kept me intrigued with that. But you're right. After that, it just kind of died away.
Dwindled. Thinking back on it, do you think this was maybe the same Bigfoot, or do you think it was maybe another one based on the nearness of the encounters?
Well, based on the nearness of the encounter, it could have very well been the very same one. It wasn't really that far away, and as the crow flies, very close. So less than probably a dozen miles,
And what, out of all the things that could have happened to you growing up, what made you want to pursue this further? You've with the writing, and it looks like you've interviewed a lot of different witnesses. Where did that passion come from?
Well, I'll tell you, whenever I in my late teenage years, I was playing music quite a bit, and I actually started playing music on the road, traveling musician, touring around the whole countryside. And I think that's one of the things that really stimulated this, because even though I didn't grow up in a traditional Cherokee home, a lot of my family did. And storytelling was a big part of that tradition growing up. And that's one of the things that I think was always fun for me, is listening to the elders and tell stories and stuff. And in the Cherokee tradition, the oral tradition, there's a lot of different stories that are passed down, from generation to generation. And I think I've always just been drawn to those storytellers. We have a lot of Cherokee National Treasures that are great storytellers. And that's something that was I always loved to go listen to wherever they're at, when I was growing up. So when I was on the road, I had a chance to meet a lot of folks from other tribes. And I think that's where the connections really started coming for me to start really gathering those stories up and using those for inspiration for my own fictional stories. I traveled from Oklahoma to all the way up to Canada, down to Mexico, to Florida, to California. So I had a chance to visit with dozens and dozens of different tribal members.
And what struck you? Was it that there were similarities between all these different tribal stories, that there might be some truth in the myth?
Some link.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of parallels and similarities there with a lot of different stories. And what's really funny to me, because the thing that I really just was really intrigued by in the Cherokee Nation, there's three different tribes within the Cherokee Nation. There's the Eastern Band, then there's the United Kituah Band, and then there's Cherokee Nation, which I'm a citizen of. And all those stories, from the Cherokee, all three tribes still, have those same stories, although they have changed some uniqueness and different qualities about them. But it's there's not very many stories in the Cherokee lore that talk about Bigfoot, but there is one by that James Mooney actually recorded. And James Mooney was, he wrote the book with the history, myths, and sacred formulas of the Cherokees. He was basically an embedded reporter, so to speak, So he collected these stories. But one of the things that I've talked to a lot of elders about, the stories that he collected, you have to almost take with a grain of salt too, because the Cherokee people, we have a very good sense of humor, and we love to laugh. We love to laugh at one another. It's just one of those traits about us. So when these stories were told to Mooney, were they told in that light? Were they told to just kind of
mess with people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I don't know. It's questionable.
And what was your conclusion? Do you think there's more to these stories than just messing with people, or?
I think so. I think there's a lot more to them, because I think every story has some basis in reality, and I think that basis there's so many similarities throughout a lot of the different tribes from Canada all the way down to us here in Oklahoma, and those similarities are very much what you're hearing in reports today. He's anywhere from 6 foot to 10 foot tall, upwards of 600 pounds, covered in hair. And, even though a lot of the stories are fearsome and terrorizing stories, I don't really recall any people that I've ever interviewed ever been attacked or hurt, injured, other than by their own accidental prowess, of running or scaring themselves.
Yeah. So you think that, there's a tendency for them to be not violent in an encounter? Like, what do you think of the what do you think of the missing 401 set of books that kind of almost imply that maybe some of these missing persons could be to Bigfoot or paranormal? I from a lot of the different witnesses that I've talked to and interviewed, there are a lot of occurrences where there is more to it than just a big hairy creature in the woods. There's always seems to be some sort of a connection to otherworldly, aliens, the lines. So, and you got to look around at our universe here. I mean, we're just a very, very small little speck out there. We are.
And to think that we're alone, that's I don't know. That's I just don't see it. I don't think we're alone. I don't think we're alone here. I think there is something out there.
Definitely. Especially with all the new evidence that's been coming out recently.
Right. And I think, with social media the way it is too, there's a little bit of, you have to be a bit of a skeptic, especially with social media, because, everybody wants their 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So
I want my 15 minutes, Paul.
Absolutely. I think you got a couple of more. But, it's really funny, though, because a lot of people love to tell stories anyway. And I don't know. Have you ever played the game when you were a kid in school where, and we did this in church, we would start with a story and just a short, quick story, and we'd whisper it to one person, and we'd pass it around the room. By the time it got to the last person, that story had so completely changed. It wasn't even the same thing.
So was it called? Was Was it called Telephone where you're from?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So where does this come from? Do you think people, that's what it is? Like they want attention. They want to tell a good story so they can get on TV. Like, where do you think the misinformation is primarily coming from? Is that it?
That's really hard to say, because I get calls all the time and emails and stuff from folks that want to tell their story. And I'll tell you, for the most part, people are very earnest in what they believe and what they're telling me. But there are those that I think you have to be kind of skeptical about, but for the most part, I think most people are being very honest about what they believe they've seen. But, growing up the way I did, we hunt and fish, running in the woods and camping and playing. We spent our entire childhood in the woods. And shadows play a big role in what you see out there.
Yeah.
And that's a couple of things that I always kind of fall back to, because I have seen things that I thought, oh my God, what was that? And then it finally comes out a few minutes later, you see something coming into light and you see it in a different perspective, and oh, okay, that's what it was. But when you see it in that fleeting moment, your imagination can run wild.
Oh yeah, I've been terrified by a skunk. I thought it was something. The right light, a skunk looks like a pretty terrifying alien.
Yeah.
So, when you hear these stories, I imagine you've heard enough of them that you've maybe got a sense of when something feels legitimate.
Yeah, I think you really do. I think you kind of get that filter, and you don't want that filter to be something that you automatically just assume everybody's lying.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. But are there things that are almost like tells for you? Is it if someone's super eager that you're going to publish their story? Is there certain things where it's not that they're making the story up, but maybe their alarm bells are going off. Your alarm bells are going off that maybe the story isn't legitimate.
Yeah, I think you get that feeling after so many different interviews and stuff. I think that it's just a gut feeling. There's no science to it, obviously, but I think you get a feel for people, and you can read people. That's, I don't know. After talking to so many people, it seems like hundreds, if not 1,000 or 2. But I think you have to enter into it each time with believing that these folks are telling you the truth, and then you listen to it, and you kind of just have to kind of pick through it and listen to it and try to compare that to what physically is possible. And it's one of those things where somebody says, well, I saw it. It was 100 yards away, but it looked like it was 10 feet tall.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, it's there's a reason that they put those little measuring sticks on the door of the convenience store, because an eyewitness 5 feet away will say somebody is 5.5 foot tall, when in reality they were 7 foot tall running out the door with the sack of money. So it's hard to really gauge distance, and put size and weight to that.
Well, let me ask you this: out of all the encounters, that all the stories that you've taken, what is the most compelling story you've ever heard that involves Bigfoot and like a UFO?
One I think that was one that got me to believing that there's got to be a connection. Happened in Alabama, and it was by a Cherokee citizen that lives here, but he lived there in Decatur, Alabama, I believe it was. And the story that he told me there was just very, very intriguing. And I had to go there and try to visit this area where he told me it was about. But apparently, what had happened was he was on a fishing trip, and with he and his wife. And on this fishing trip, they had gone back into the woods and hiked back in, and they were just he was a fly fisherman, and he just liked to get out in the woods and just hunt, fish, hike, camp, that sort of thing. And he said they set up camp, and they're probably he said they were a few miles back into the woods from where they had parked at the trailhead, and they'd been there a couple of nights already. And one day he was out fishing by the creek. It was just him. He had went down there. His wife had stayed at the camp, just messing around there. While he was fishing, he had caught a few fish, and he had strung these fish up. And he had went back. He was just kind of going up and down the stream there and catching a few here and there, and he'd put them back on the stringer. And he said he heard something and didn't really think much about it. And he looked around and really didn't see anything or anyone. So he didn't really give it much thought. Well, he went to fishing again. Then he caught another one, and he went back to his stringer to put this fish on. It was gone. He said he knew that he had tied it very well, and it was actually tied. He said it didn't just break off.
Yeah,
this one, he had it in the water, and he said there's just no way. So he's like looking around, like, is somebody out here messing with us? And so he said he was a little bit perturbed at that point, and he hollered around and probably hollered a few obscenities. Who's out there? Who's messing with me? That sort of thing. But he said he went ahead and fished a little bit longer, and then it just didn't catch anything else, just frustrated. So he went back to camp, and he told his wife about this. He said, I caught some fish, but somebody stole them. She said, who's going to steal your fish? There's nobody out here. They hadn't seen you. So yeah, right. You lost you didn't catch any, or you lost them or something. You're just telling me this.
You're just messing with me. Yeah.
He swears to her, I did. Well, later that night, they go to sleep, and he said it's probably after midnight, and it's pretty warm outside, and they have the tent flap open, and she's asleep, and he said he was just about to fall asleep when he heard some noise outside. So he said he just kind of snuck out to see if somebody was messing with him, messing around in the camp. And he opens up the tent flap, and he says he couldn't really see that well out there, and he didn't have his flashlight handy, and he didn't want to make any noise. So, he just kind of slowly closed that tent flap back, and then he reached around and tried to find the flashlight laying on the ground beside a sleeping bag. And he said, I guess I made a little bit too much noise or something, because then I heard it like it must have heard me and took off. So I just opened up the flap real quick, and I shined my light out there, and it was gone already. And he said there's quite a distance from his campsite to the edge of the woods. He said there's a good 30, 40 feet out through there. So whoever this was moved pretty darn fast. Oh. So he said, okay, that's it. I don't see anything missing from the camp, but there was obviously somebody here. So I'm going to sit up a little while. Well, he turns his flashlight off, and during this time, his wife kind of woke up, but she went right back to sleep, he said, so she could sleep through a hurricane. Well, he said he's sitting there, and he's got his tent flap open, and he sees a small light. So a light out in the woods, and he just pulls his tent back open, and he just kind of slowly steps back out. And he says he's watching this light. He says just a white light, and he thinks, okay, that's somebody with a flashlight out there. But he said but then you watching it. If somebody's holding a flashlight, it's kind of herky jerky, kind of all over the place. Says it wasn't. It was very smooth. And then at one point it moved straight up, like it had climbed a tree or something, and then straight back down. And then another light joined it.
Oh, wow.
And that, he said, okay, at that point, he said, I'm starting to get this eerie, weird feeling. What in the world is going on? And he said, of course, it's night and you're seeing a light out in the woods. You don't know how big it is because you have nothing to reference it by.
Yeah.
He said it could have been a 5 foot wide circle. It could have been a small pinpoint. You can't tell. He said, but what he did, he stood up and he started walking toward it. And they both came together, and he said they got a little bit bigger and brighter, and then they just disappeared. All together, just disappeared. He said that next morning, finally, he went back to bed later on and fell asleep. But he said the next morning they were getting ready to leave that next day. He said, here's the funny part. You hear people talking about this all the time, but they build these little rock cairns. He said there was one sitting there about 4 rocks big. He said the first one was a pretty good sized rock, and then smaller ones stacked on top of each other, not 20 feet away from their campsite. He said they didn't do it, and it was never there while they were there. So,
what did his wife think of that?
Well, he said his wife just thought he was a little bit, you're making this. You're trying to scare me.
Do you think? Did she think he stacked those rocks?
Exactly. Yeah, but that's not the only story that I've heard where there's lights like that in the woods. So, but that was the first one that I heard in a situation like that. And this is this guy. He's a hunter, fisherman. He was a guide, and that's what he did. He worked for outfitters, guiding people on hunting trips and fishing trips and stuff. And he knows his way around the woods. So I never got the impression he was lying.
He's not some accountant that went camping, that one time in his life, and everything's weird to him, right? So he knew his way around the woods. What is with these stories and orbs and UFOs connected to Bigfoot in some way? Like, how do you even make sense of that? Like, let's say we say this is going on. Like, why do you think it's happening? Like, how is Bigfoot connected to UFOs?
I think that's the $1 million question right there. Because everybody that I've talked to that had that similar type of experience where there's some sort of a connection there, it's like, why? How? What's going on there with that? Are they aliens themselves? Are they here from another world? What's the deal with that? Because I firmly believe that, number one, that we aren't alone in this universe. I just don't believe that for a second. Because I've witnessed a couple of things in my life that tell me differently. So I really don't know what that connection is, because there's so many other stories where there doesn't seem to be a connection at all. So I don't really know why that is.
What is there been a theory or a handful of theories that you find convincing? Reasons, even if there's no evidence, but just it almost makes sense.
To me, not really. I can't draw the connection. I don't understand what it possibly could be. Because there's probably some scientific reasoning behind these lights or these orbs or what have you. But here where we're at in Oklahoma and Arkansas and places like that, I just don't see this being gas or anything like that that's reflective or things like that. So I'm not really sure what it is.
And like you mentioned, I mean, there's tons and tons of these stories. I've heard many before. Like my grandpa used to tell a story of seeing a blue orb in the middle of a field, like in the middle of the night. And, it's just this big ball of flame almost. And, you can never get near it. And if you ever try to get near it, it would disappear.
Right.
So, yeah, like it's incredible. And it's different. Everybody has a different version of what it is. He used to think it was just lost souls, trying to find their way.
Yeah. I've heard very similar stories like that. And, I remember one time when I was a kid I was down in Roland, Oklahoma. And I don't know, I guess that's probably 14 or 15 or something like that at that particular time, because my cousin, my same age down there, had mini bikes, and we were riding mini bikes around out in the pastures and stuff. And I remember us stopping our bikes and at one point and going, and my cousin Alan pointing and said, "What in the world is that?" And we're looking at this, and we got this big open field here where we're riding our mini bikes, and then there's woods down there, and there's a big pond down there somewhere, and we see this reddish glow just happening. We're thinking, what in the world is that? So we ride our bikes to it, right? And as we get closer to it, it seems to be getting further away from us. We never could get to it, but it was still there for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it's just gone.
Oh wow.
So no idea.
Do you almost feel like stuff like that is just like they're deliberately trying to mess with you, like the whole trickster archetype?
I do. I think so. Because I've had a few experiences myself that tell me that there's probably some reality to that. Spirits being able to still manifest themselves and still mess with us here somewhat. Because I've actually I just interviewed a lady not long ago, and this was a really fascinating interview because she's a young lady, just bought a house for the first time, and it's just a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, on the edge of town. And it's just her by herself, and she works nights. And she told me when she first moved into this house, she thought she was just very forgetful because she would lay her keys down, and the next thing you know, she couldn't find them. So it was like that with a lot of different things. She would lay stuff down and they would disappear, only to be found later exactly where she thought she had left them. Well, she said that happened for quite a bit. And then one day I got up early and I was getting ready to go to work in the evening. And she had fixed a cup of coffee and she set it down on the table. And then she said, I went to get my shoes and put my shoes on, and she bent down to tie her shoes. And then when she sat back up, the coffee cup was on the other side of the table.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah, she said that just freaked her out.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so she said she just kind of jumped and was just like, who's here, and she said that was that kind of told me that maybe I'm not losing my mind. Maybe it's somebody just messing with me now. Maybe it's a spirit messing with me. So she said she called her mom and dad that next day, and they came over, right? And she's a Cherokee citizen herself, and her dad came over, and they basically smoked the house off. And did that, and that's to get rid of those spirits, those evil spirits. Well, here's the thing about it. She said her dad did that to get rid of those evil spirits. These things didn't stop.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Now that's the catch. She said, I don't think they're evil. I don't think they're evil at all. I think they're just playing with me.
Just mischievous. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why they didn't go away.
Yeah. She said there's nothing trying to harm me. If anything, it's just playing little jokes on me. So
Nice.
pretty fascinating.
Wow, kind of scary, but yeah, fascinating for sure.
Yeah, she said she's kind of gotten used to it now, but it's far and few in between anymore. But she said she completely got used to it. But
So
yeah,
this might be like a little bit off topic here, but I just want to pick your brain. Like, what are your thoughts on skinwalkers? Do you believe in them? Do you?
well, that's not something that is a prevalent story or any lore in the Cherokee. Or in the Cherokee Nation anyway. Now it could be with the UKB or the Eastern Band or something there, but yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with skinwalkers themselves, but like with the Cherokee, there's a lot of different witches, from the Raven Mocker to Spearfinger, that are some of the most evil and powerful witches. So skinwalkers themselves, I think, are really come from different tribes that I would love to get more interviews with and talk to more people, because I've got a friend that he's Navajo, and he kind of tells me, one of these days I'm gonna tell you some stories, and that'll make a believer out of you. So I keep waiting for that.
He's got to build it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, because every time I go down to meet him in Gallup, it's like, yeah, well, one day, I'll tell you one day, so the suspense, just lingers.
Well, what would you be more terrified to run into, a Bigfoot or a skinwalker in the woods?
God, I think a skinwalker.
Yeah.
It's, at least with Bigfoot by now, we kind of know what to almost expect, right?
Yeah.
But with a skinwalker and you don't know.
You don't know.
That's very scary. But I have you ever heard of the town of Honubby Creek? Every year they have a Bigfoot festival.
I have not.
Honubby.
I haven't. Well, what about it, Paul?
Yeah, every year in October they have this Bigfoot festival, and of course that came from a supposed attack, and that happened several years ago. Well, in Honubby, Oklahoma, it's Honubby Creek in the Comanche Mountains down south. Well, this is there's several 100,000 acres out through there in this WMA, the wildlife management area there, and three different rivers that run through there. Just a vast wilderness, and a lot of different stories that have come out of there. But it's one of those places where I think a lot of people go now to I don't know, to try to find Bigfoot. There's that Area X, I think, is one group of Bigfoot researchers down there that have some property and have done some research there. Very interesting stuff. But I've been all over those mountains. We've ridden four-wheelers all over those mountains. They've logged those mountains for years now. But again, when you have 300,000 acres, I don't care how many people are down there, you can't cover it.
No,
you simply cannot cover that much area. And what's really fascinating about that is, I've been all over that place, but you could take that and put it in the Pacific Northwest, and it's just a speck. So that's where I really want to spend some more time.
Have you had any experiences while you were there, like besides, like anything?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had one experience once, and it's really it's scared the crap out of me. I'll tell you that. I've got a couple of friends that they have cabins up there in Honubby Creek, right? And it's up on top of the mountain. And there's one little store there called Honubby Creek Cabins, and you can rent a small cabin stuff there. And every year the biggest thing there is the Bigfoot Festival. But I've been going down there for over 30 years with my friends, hanging out, hunting, fishing, just whatever, Well, like I said, I've been a musician too. So after I retired from the road, I still played on the weekends quite often. And I had some friends that I played music with that lived in Tulsa. And me being from Stillwell, which is 100 miles away, we were going to meet up down there and just spend the weekend. Well, I load my four-wheelers up on the back of a trailer, and I've got my four-wheel drive truck. And the drive down there is about a 3-hour drive from where I live. And it's through the Comanche Mountains and that Tallahena Drive, which is just a beautiful drive in the fall. It's one of those big famous drives that everybody rides the motorcycles on and stuff, through the fall and stuff. And it's winding, through the mountains and stuff. Beautiful. Well, I got loaded up and I'm, trucking on down here. I'm by myself and I'm driving up the mountain. And when I get down to Honubby itself, it's probably another, 20 minutes up to the cabins now. So I passed by the store and it's getting kind of late. And I want to hurry up and get up there because it's hard to find that road that turns off to the cabins because it's a nice paved road, but the turnoff is just a dirt road. And it's right in the middle of the woods. And it's not like it's a real turnoff. It's just a hole in the woods. So I get up there and I drive through or turn off and I'm driving back through and the road is real windy and twisty and you're going around these sharp hairpin turns. And I've got the truck and I've got a 20-foot trailer on the back with 3 four-wheelers, right? So I'm trying to get through these little tight turns. And I finally get back there to the cabin and I kind of back it around. And I finally get backed in. I'm the first one there. So I'm just sitting there waiting on everybody. And it's dark now. And as I finally get backed in and everything, I just put it into park and I just kill the engine and roll the windows down. The engine, the radio stays on for another 10 or 15 minutes or something like that. Then everything just dies off. Well, when it finally just died off, I'm sitting here in the dark. And you could start hearing all the night noises around you, the crickets, the cicadas, the bullfrogs, croaking, all the night noises going on. And it is pitch black. Up there on top of that mountain, there was no stars out. There's no moon. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. It is that pitch dark. It's just inky black. So I'm sitting there, and it's just kind of eerie, weird, And then I hear this footstep, or what I think is a footstep. And I'm, okay, what is that? So I'm looking around. I still can't see anything. My flashlight's in the back of the truck with my other stuff, my other gear. So I'm not going to get out and get it. And I don't want to turn my headlights on because this sound happened over here to the side of me and kind of behind the cabin. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm fine. And I reach into the console and I console myself because I've got a handgun in there. It's the woods. There's bear out there. There's everything in the world there. So I'm thinking, I'm good. I'm safe. And because you can scare yourself stupid. I just sat there a few more minutes, and then I hear it again, and you can hear the dry leaves just crunch. And I think, oh, okay, what is that? Is somebody already here messing with me? And I think that's impossible because they'd have to drive right by me, and there's no way that they could have. That road is so small.
So remote, yeah.
Yeah, I hear it again, right? And now I'm starting to get this weird feeling like, okay, something's out there, and it's not a skunk. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than anything like that. You can just tell when you hear a noise that close to you. And so I'm sitting up now, and the hair on the back of my neck is just standing straight up, and then I hear it again, and here's the weird part. My windows are down. And I felt something in the window beside me. It's like just this looming presence right beside me. And it was stifling. And I don't know what happened after that. I don't know how in the world I did this, but the next thing I know, my consciousness is like I'm sitting down at the Honey Creek store in my truck parked, and I'm just breathing hard. And I don't even know what time it was. It was after midnight at this point. I don't know how I got there. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just the fear that caused me to forget everything.
Yeah.
But this major time lapse of a couple of hours just gone.
God.
Oh, wow.
Never saw what it was. I don't know what it was. But it was.
Did you have, like, was there
That's
anything
insane.
different? Did you have any markings on you?
No. And I remember I was sitting here I had my hands on the steering wheel and I was just shaking. And I didn't know what to think. I was thinking, how did I get here? You know, what happened? And I'm just trying to remember, and I cannot remember. The last thing I remember is this looming presence beside me, just filling up this entire window. And I've got a 4-wheel drive truck. You got to step up into it, you know. So whatever this was huge. And I had no idea. And I just remember sitting there. And about that time, my buddies drive by and they hit their horns because they see my truck, and recognize me, of course. And they're driving by and they're hitting their horns and hollering, "Hey, come on up," you know. And so I pull in behind them, and I follow them up. And remember, this road, it's just winding, a lot of hairpin turns in there, back and forth, you know. And I get there, and I'm still shaking, and they're, you know, getting down. They're excited, you know. They're climbing out of their truck and everything, and I'm just shaking, and I guess I'm just ghost white. And they said, "What in the world is wrong with you?" And I tell them, they're all, "Oh, come on." I said, "I'm serious, guys. There's something here." So everybody's got their spotlights out now, because, you know, rednecks in the woods with guns and spotlights, you know. But never seen anything else. And the next day, I looked over my truck really, really well. I had no scrapes on it, no bumps, no bruises, nothing like that. So I don't know how I got out of those woods without doing that.
Oh, wow.
Because if I drove out of there that fast, I was going to wrap that truck around a tree with those trailer and bikes still on there. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Oh, my God.
Yeah. I have a couple questions for you, but let's go to a quick commercial break. We'll be back in just a minute, guys.
Hello once again, everybody out there in Untold Radio Land. This is Brendan Brown, host of the fastest 30 minutes in the cryptid world, This Week in Bigfoot. Here's what we got coming up on this Friday show. We're going to take a look at how the U.S. kept secret tabs on UFOs and Yeti hunting in Nepal. Mike Lucci heads down under for a look into the latest Yowie trail cam photo. Snowwalker's got a bone to pick with MK Davis over Patty's ongoing enhancements in a brand new 2 Minutes With. And Bigfoot comes knocking on a motorhome in the Pacific Northwest. All these stories and a whole lot more this Friday night at 8 on the next This Week in Bigfoot, only on CARC Universal. Be there.
Are you ready to uncover the mysteries of Bigfoot? Join us for SquatchCon Idaho 2023. This year, we're bringing the magic directly to your screen, or join us in person. Witness the world premiere of the enhanced Paul Freeman Bigfoot footage. Doug Hychek discovered a secret within this enhanced video you'll have to see to believe. Hear from an all-star panel of Bigfoot experts like Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, Cliff Barackman, Brian King-Sharp, and Michael Freeman. But that's not all. Get exclusive online bonuses such as Bigfoot-themed wallpapers, a Bigfoot coloring book, an interactive Bigfoot quiz, Squatch Nut Field Guide, get a copy of the Freeman Bigfoot Files ebook, and more. Whether you attend in person or watch it live online, you'll be part of an unforgettable experience. Don't miss out on this unique opportunity. Secure your spot today. SquatchCon Idaho 2023. Step into the unknown.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Hey Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
Okay. All right. So here's my question. So this crazy story happens to you. This crazy thing happens to you. Would you, or maybe you already have, would you ever get like hypnotized to try to do like a, what was it, like a regression or whatever, to maybe see if you could pull in some lock memory?
No, I never have. But yeah, I would do it just to see, because like I said, I could not remember, and it hurt trying to remember. I mean, it was just, it's there. I just know it's there, but you couldn't tap into it. What happened? You know? So yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Like, how scared? Like, do you feel like you'd be a little scared to like maybe find out, or would you be excited? Or
Yeah, you know, there's some apprehension to it. You know, to find out that what it really is. You know, because I don't know. The fear of the unknown is the greatest fear ever, right? So, you know, you tap into that and find out what exactly happened, and it may be something you just can't come back from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
so, why do you think we haven't? Why do you feel like this mystery, like Bigfoot, has been so elusive? Do you feel like we're making progress, or do you feel like, you know, we're kind of spinning our wheels here? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, you know, I think sometimes it's like in this particular community, it seems like we're our own worst enemy sometimes. We shoot ourselves in the foot, no pun intended, but you know, for
sometimes that happens too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, every step forward, it seems like there's something that brings you right back to, you know, to square one, because I think social media, for one thing, is a fantastic thing, and if used for good and not evil, right? But at the same time, it's one of those things where everybody has an opinion, and everybody is right. But you know, we still have to put some science to this, right? We've got to have some sort of proof. We have to have some physical proof that we can hold in our hands. You know, I mean, my wife, for instance, she loves to shop online. You know, she don't have to go to the store. That's great. Me, on the other hand, I want to hold this in my hand. I want to look at it. I want to examine this, you know, and without that physicalness of whatever this is, it's just like it's not real to me. You know, so.
What do you think of people that say, look, the reason why we haven't been able to get definitive proof, or at least, you know, to prove the most ardent skeptics that this thing exists, is because it isn't physical. It's some sort of supernatural, interdimensional being, you know, what you're asking for is impossible. What do you say to that?
I give a lot of credence to that, really, because, you know, I think some people are more perceptible to that spiritual side of things, because you know, it's kind of weird. I've had a couple of experiences where that made me a believer in the spirit world, and I think there's just a lot of validity to that. I don't think it has to be absolutely physical, to be real. I think it can be spiritual and be very, very real. That's the mind is a very powerful thing, and I think for some people, they can pick up on those spiritual things probably more so than other people. And I don't think age or gender or anything like that has anything to do with it. I think it's just a matter of circumstance a lot of times, that maybe being raised in a particular environment has allowed them to be more perceptible to these types of things. So yeah, I give that a lot of credibility.
So what, if we can't even narrow down if this thing is a physical creature or some interdimensional being, like where do you even start? Like if you could get the Bigfoot community to hone in on a methodology, like how do you think as a community we should be trying to solve this mystery?
Oh,
no pressure.
None. That's a very difficult question to even think about, because there's just so many different angles to come at this by. That just being in the physical realm is one thing, but then when you're talking about that fourth dimension, that spiritual realm, and bringing that and tying that together, ooh, that's a tough one. Because and that's one of the things I've tried to tackle with a lot of my interviews, because I've talked to a lot of different elders, for instance, in not just my tribe, but in other tribes too. And with the Cherokee, the spirit world and the physical world were the one and same.
Is it almost like they're blended together, or it's like on a spectrum?
Absolutely, and that was the basis for our religion, if you want to call it a religion, basically the two-way. But yeah, and it's I'm not sure where that separation occurred. Was that something within our own tribe when that separation started occurring? Was it due to colonization? Or was it just something that was a natural progression of events? I think it was Dan Brown wrote, in one of his books, and it made a lot of sense. Even though it was a fictional book, it talked about, in many, many years ago, man had a lot of different gods, right? We worshiped a lot of different gods. But then as we became a little bit more intelligent about our environment and the physical world and the scientific world, those gods became less and less important to us, because we started, okay, we can rule that one out. Thor, for instance, the god of thunder, well, we know that's really a physical manifestation. We know what the scientific reasoning is for that, so we don't need that God anymore, right? So now we're down to one God. And when you think about it in those types of terms, it's like, okay, where do we go from there? Now we're down to the one creator, right? And the spirit world, I think, is back. We're almost back to that same synergy where the spirit world and the physical world should be the same, right? I mean, have we come full circle, or are we coming full circle? Are we getting there?
Yeah, and I can see where you're going with this, but specifically, let's say, with Native American, let's say, in their tales, are Bigfoots, are they, the way they speak of them, are they basically big apes, or are they something more? Is there some sort of a spirit interdimensional paranormal element to these things?
Well, that's the thing that I've found as a common theme throughout a lot of the Native American lore when it comes to any of the stories that have a resemblance to Bigfoot, right? That it is a spiritual being. So I think that's where we're back to that full circle within the Native American belief, because the physical and the spiritual are still one within those types of settings.
What does Bigfoot represent in these type of cultures? Like, is it different in the different tribes, or did they all kind of hone in on this is like Bigfoot, means good luck, or is signs of bad, like what are you getting from these stories?
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that I find that it's very controversial within our own tribe, because some people believe this and some people believe that, right? But when it gets to the essence of the story, you got to think back to the stories themselves. Why was this story ever told to begin with? And you think back, okay, so I'm hearing this story now for the first time. Well, what about 200 years ago when this story was first told? Why did that storyteller want to tell this story and pass it along? What was the importance to it? Is it like a parable? Is it something to teach us with? Because a lot of the stories within the Cherokee lore are stories that are that they teach us something. There's one particular story about how the possum lost his fur on his tail, right? And it was due to pride, and pride cometh before a great fall, right? And it's those sorts of things. But there's also back to the thing that Cherokee are very we like to laugh, we like to tell jokes, right? So a lot of our stories too are simply for entertainment value. But that's the thing that I think you have to remember is when you hear any story, whether it's about Bigfoot or about the possum or the origin stories too, you got to think back to that original creator of that story. What was the purpose behind that? Was it purely for entertainment? Was it to teach us a lesson, or was it to figure out how we interact with our environment, how we interact with the world? And that understanding, trying to figure out how we fit in with that. So there's a lot of reasonings behind that, but we don't know exactly, not now, but I don't know. It's very interesting.
Is there stuff you've discovered in these stories that you feel like other researchers have maybe overlooked, or, just because they're just unaware of these stories, maybe insights you've picked up, even though, yeah, it's hard, right? Because there's embellishments, and then there's just pure storytelling, trying to tell a good story, make it interesting. And then there's the whole telephone effect, right? Where how old are these stories? How long have they been passed down? But is there insights you've picked up by just sheer, maybe it's pattern recognition of there's this commonality, this seed that I'm seeing over and over again?
Well, I think that's the something that it is really interesting is there are a lot of commonalities, and it's funny because from tribe to tribe, there's a lot of different similarities in the same type of story. So, like the one story that Mooney talks about that even remotely resembles a Bigfoot story, and the way he recorded it, I've talked to a lot of different elders from every all three of the tribes, the Cherokee tribes, and the word itself that he uses that was told to him is not a word that is recognized by our Cherokee speakers today. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to really tap into the essence of that story, because It's one of the oldest recorded ones that we have that's written down, because it's an oral tradition, of course, with most tribes. And those oral traditions like that, having no recording of the way that they began, it's really hard to pin those things down, because when you try to compare one story to another story, what they're trying to get out of that and what they're trying to teach could be vastly different, but from the same type of story. If that is understandable at all.
Yeah. How much effort is being done by just people in general to put these stories to the page so they're not lost forever? I mean, is there a great effort to try to, save these stories?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about our tribe right now and where we're at. Over the last few years, the Cherokee Nation in particular have done very well with our businesses, and we are the largest tribe in the U.S. And bigger than the Navajo. Thank you. It's been that running competition, We're going to enroll one more member than you. But no, we are the largest tribe. But here in Oklahoma, we have just a huge economic impact right here, and we're in a very good place. And that is one of the things that the chief has recognized is our need to revitalize our language. And you do that. The language is our culture, and our stories are just so important to us. And over the last few years, they've really put a lot of money and effort into revitalizing the language and collecting these stories from our elders and really putting a great importance on that. So we are, I think, very progressive in that approach. And I think we're kind of at the forefront of that because not long ago, we were in danger of losing the language. We lose our elders and our first language speakers in great numbers anymore, and it's really sad to see that, and that knowledge is not being passed down like it used to be. But like I said, I think we're in a very, very good place right now, and we're starting to bring that back and starting to collect those again, and we're recording our elders and their stories and these stories that have been told and passed down from generation to generation. So we're doing very well, but it's going to get better.
Nice. Good.
What if you were given $1 million and you had to spend it on research? Could be for the paranormal, could be for UFOs, could be for Bigfoot. How would you spend that money?
Oh, wow.
Loaded question there.
Yeah, it is. One of the things I always thought about, because being a big avid outdoorsman, like I said, growing up and today, I spend from October 1 when bow season opens to January, I'm in the woods, and all my family, friends are, and it's just a huge tradition. We always have been. And, we hunt everything from deer, turkey, quail, pheasant, whatever we can hunt. We're going to hunt. We're going to fish. And when we're not in the woods during those seasons, we're on the lakes fishing. I would love to be able to really put that into being able to have the type of technology and the equipment that I know that is out there. It's just very expensive to be able to go into these places that are, I guess, highly visited by Bigfoot, right?
Like hot spots, right?
The hot spots, and go there with the technology that we have and with the manpower. I think that's the thing that I think we're missing that.
What's the most expensive piece of equipment? Like, what is the toy you would just most love to put in one of these spots or utilize?
Well, I tell you, I'd love to get with either who is it, Elon Musk or whoever's got the Starlink satellites up there. We need some satellites out there because I mean those satellites, man, they can read a dime. So why aren't we using them?
Right? How does a Bigfoot hide from a satellite?
Right.
Exactly. Nobody can hide from a satellite. Surely Bigfoot can't.
So what you're saying is Elon Musk already has all the evidence we'd ever need. He's just sitting on it.
He's got to. He's got to be recording it somewhere.
What about drones? What you just had enough of them just flying around, patrolling the woods?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't.
You don't seem interested in drones. You seem.
Well, I'll tell you this. That here's just a quick story that I thought was a drone or was several drones.
You thought it was drones at first.
Yeah, and this is in broad daylight in a little town called Veneta, just not very far from here. I'm standing outside with a friend, and we're just looking around, and we're waiting on cars to come into this event that we're at. We're at the gate. We're just kind of talking, and as people slowly come in and stuff, and we direct them where to go and park for this event, and it starts slowing down. Everybody's already there, and we're standing there just talking, just chit-chatting, and I glance up into the sky. Above town, there are these white orbs, right? They're just white. And they're flying around, and there's several of them. There's about a dozen of them, and they're just all flying around. And then like 5 or 6 of them break off and fly around over here to the other side. And they're just all over the place. And then they come back together, and then they're all flying around again. And I'm thinking, what in the world is there? Why are they just all this white orb if they're not drones? That's not a drone. They're white. I mean, a drone, you would see some sort of a shape or color or something, not just a white orb. But then I turn away, and then when I look back up, they're all gone. Those weren't drones, but I'm just, drones are, I don't know.
So did it hit you when they disappeared out of thin air?
Yeah, that was,
Wow.
that was, I was telling my buddy there, Cameron, I said, dude, did you see that? I mean, really, that's not drones. I mean, you can't really, when they're up in the sky like that and you have no reference point, you can't tell how big something is or how fast something is really moving. But they look like they were just able to move and do anything that they wanted to, and then gone.
Boom.
Wait a minute, something ain't right here.
So I'm sorry if I missed this. So did your buddy see them, or was it too quick? It was.
No, he never saw them.
He never saw them.
Oh no.
He never saw them.
No, that brings me to another question. Do you think the problem with some people is they're not paying attention, that they don't see this stuff? Do you think it's more common than people, maybe most people believe?
Yeah, because a friend of mine and I were talking about this very thing. Like for instance, when you're a hunter and you're sitting in a tree stand, you've taught yourself to be very, very still and to look for those things that don't belong, and it's usually movement that gives something away. It's one of those things where if you've taught yourself what to look for, you're going to see it. But if not, I mean, for instance, I've been driving down the road with my wife and say, "Hey, look, you see that deer?" And she's like, "Where? Where are you looking?" Right there by the tree. I don't see it. Well, she's not.
The one we just hit.
Yeah, I think you have to have somewhat of a trained eye to be able to notice things that are out of the ordinary, for instance. So, because when you're in the woods, there's 1,000 things out there. There's trees, there's limbs, there's leaves, there's twigs, there's birds, there's squirrels, there's all sorts of animals and things that's going on. Your mind is trying to process all of that. And if you don't know what to look for, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever taken any encounter stories from like Mexico? Or just in the South?
Yeah, I did. And actually, my band was playing in Alamogordo. And when we were there, we went to El Paso, and then we went to Juarez to visit with some folks over there. And
Juarez
a
local
friend of
here.
mine,
Yeah.
yeah, I know Juarez, right? You're going to hear some weird stories there.
That's a big UFO hotspot right there. Yeah.
Well, it was really fascinating. Some of the stories that some of the folks were telling us there. That it's like an occurrence all the time. You know, wow, really? You know. So, but yeah, I would love to be able to go back into some of those other remote areas like that. I think they're probably more visible in those places like that too.
Oh yeah, especially you got miles and miles of just open desert. I mean,
yeah,
the night sky is like clear as day.
I know, right?
Yeah,
we've
we've been lucky enough to see a couple of things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about the chupacabra out there?
No experience or stories with the chupacabra. I'm a little bit disappointed in that because that's what tell me something. I want to see it.
It's like the national animal there.
Oh my god!
I know, right? It should be on the flag.
It should be on the flag.
But like talking about supernatural hotspots and stuff like that. Why do you think like Hanover Creek is it? Like, why do you think that's such a big hotspot? Like, is there a particular reason or?
That's I think those become hotspots in a lot of times because you have that first encounter story, right? And
yeah,
that's the biggie. That's the one that puts it on the map. And then you've got people that kind of flock there to it. And unfortunately, it's a part of it. You're going to have those people that are going to, oh yeah, well, this is what I saw too, because those bandwagon people.
Yeah.
So, for like a better way of saying it, the Me Too's of Bigfoot.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's what creates some of the hotspots. So.
What about this? What if there's this stuff's happening everywhere, and you get a hotspot, and now that's when people's eyes open. That's when they're paying attention because they're like, oh well,
yeah, that's true.
There's a Bigfoot that was seen here. We should actually pay attention instead of staring at our phones.
Mm-hmm.
We should keep our eyes peeled.
Yeah, well, and that's true. Like I was talking about a while ago, if you're not trained to look for something in particular, same thing applies there. Because now you're aware of it. Have you ever went out and we're car shopping, for instance, and you thought, okay, I'm going to get me a Jeep Unlimited Wrangler, and nobody in town seems to be having one until you buy one, and then all of a sudden you see them everywhere, right? So you're now looking for that, and you see that. So I think there's a lot to that. You put it there in their head, so they're going to find it. They're going to be looking for it.
Have you ever seen this video? It's like a psychology 101 video, but it's like people are passing a basketball back and forth, and they first just make you watch it, and you're just like, okay, whatever. And then they show you what you missed, and like someone in like a monkey suit walks in and like
yes
walks right past them
in front of the frame.
Yeah. I've seen that.
I remember seeing that, and I missed it the first time.
Yeah, isn't that crazy what your mind focuses on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but yeah, and it's very fun because I've got a friend that is he's a retired U.S. Marshal, and he's very perceptible to. I mean, just really, he walks into a room, right, and he just reads the room, and he knows where people are sitting, what they're wearing, without just a glance, right? Well, he's trained to do those sorts of things, and he can spot those little nuances that are happening, and it's funny because I'll test him when we're sitting there. I said, okay, there's two guys sitting behind us, and they're sitting across from each other. What are they wearing? And he'll go, they're not sitting across from each other. They're sitting right beside each other, and there's a woman across from them. And he'll tell me what they're wearing. And it's just amazing at just how astute he has become to being able to do that. So it's a pretty cool practice.
Have you gotten better at noticing stuff? Is this something you've cultivated yourself?
I think so. I think I've gotten to the point where I've really taught myself to look for those oddities, those things that just don't belong. Or and like I said, my friend the marshal, he's taught me a lot about that as well, because you have to be aware of your surroundings all the time, especially if you're going to go out into the woods looking for Bigfoot. You better be knowing what it is that you're looking for and what's around you already. It's kind of an asset mapping practice. You look at what's there, what's already around you, and not just in your general surrounded area, but what's beyond that. And then you put those things into that picture.
Was there any useful tips he gave you as far as, mental practices he does, or a checklist of things he mentally goes through when he enters a new area, or, how did he get so good at it?
Well, I've asked him that 1,000 times. He's given me a few little pointers here and there, like, okay, when you first walk into a room, number one, what's the geometry of the room? How's it laid out? Is it a square room? Is it a rectangle? If it is, how's it laid out with the furniture? That sort of thing. And start there with a basis like that, and then put the people into that picture, because everybody's going to be not just static, but there's going to be other people that are moving as well. So when you're looking at that room, get you a basis, get you a layout. Basically, you're drawing that room in your mind. And then you put those people into those places, and then you think ahead. Like, if this waitress was over here a moment ago, and that there's people down here waiting on her, she's going to be back and forth. So there's going to be interaction between that too. So remember those types of interactions, and that'll help you, pinpoint where different people are located. And just little things like that. But it's helped. But I don't think I'll ever be as good as him, because I think there's some real scientific training behind what they do, not just, the few little tips he's given me.
For sure.
I'm assuming he maps all the exits too.
Yeah.
All the entry points.
Absolutely.
Instinctively.
He says, what you see on TV, they just enhance that stuff, but it's real. He says you walk into a room, where the exit points are. And he's one of those that never sits with his back to the door.
Yep. That's always a good strategy.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely a good strategy.
So what's on your mind these days with this topic? What are you currently excited about, or researching, or exploring?
One of the things that we were talking about earlier is that the spirituality, and how it's part of the physical world, and what can we do to really tap into that, and to really see that and understand that, and interact with it, because it seems like all the stories from the people that I've talked to are something else interacting with them, but not, them interacting together. It's just something that's happening to them, not with them. So I think that's one of the things that I'm kind of really more interested in right now is that. So how do we tap into that? How do we connect with that spirit world, and how do we interact? So I think that's kind of a fascinating topic.
Have you ever done a meditation practice, or done ayahuasca, or done something to try to tap into this realm or this area, or explore it?
Yeah, I've tried on my own through types of some meditation and some things like that, but I don't think that I've gotten anywhere where I really want to be with that. So it's still a very young practice for me. But yeah, I'm trying to hone some of those skills so that I can be more perceptible to that. Because, like I said, I think people are just some people are just more perceptible to those things. And I don't know. That's somewhere I really want to put a little bit more time and effort into.
What this is from a listener, Paul. What were your thoughts, if any, about having at least 3 people engaging in quantum entanglement?
Oh, good question.
Oh, well.
If you need to take a moment and digest that.
I can take a moment or possibly a year to get back in. Quantum entanglement. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have any thoughts right now. That's a toughie. That's very interesting, though.
You've Sasquatch Wizard, you've stumped our guest. Congratulations. He's gonna meditate under a tree for a year with this question.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. Well, a couple of things happened to me when I was younger that made me really want to start trying to tap into that. And one in particular was it's an interesting story. What happened was,
Paul. I didn't mean to cut you off. But he had a follow-up.
Not at all.
He said, in short, I'm speaking about the strength of prayer being used to communicate with Sasquatch. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I think that's where what we were talking about with the spirit world being the same as the physical world. That's where a lot of our Cherokee beliefs came from. And that is something that I think every morning, my grandma, she would go to water, and that's a very religious practice for her to go to water and to bathe away all those negative thoughts, those negative feelings, those energies and stuff, and to basically re-energize with new positive energies and things. And I think when people do that together, those types of spiritual practices, I think they can tap into that spiritual world more readily, and that's something that's been very important within the Cherokee people, the Cherokee tribe, and a lot of other different tribes. Being able to go to water and to re-energize with that focus, and to really get refocused, where you can actually be more one and more synergistic with the spiritual and the physical world. So I think there's something to that. It just makes sense. Why couldn't we, as a group, have more strength and more power to communicate into that spiritual realm? So,
if in regards to your tribe or any of the other tribes you've engaged with, what are your thoughts or their thoughts on stuff like astral projection or lucid dreaming? How does this play into any of this stuff with the spirit realm, if at all?
Well, I've tried to draw some connection to that because, like peyote ceremonies and sweat lodge ceremonies and things like that, I think are probably the closest connection to something like that. And like I said, I've not been one that's raised traditional. I've got friends and relatives that have been and are a bit more versed in that. But that is something that I want to get in a little bit more into and learning from those folks and some of the elders and stuff.
Another, you want to read the question?
Oh, sure. So the Bigfoot influencers, they asked do you think some people are more prone to the ability to tap into the spiritual world?
Do you think there's talent with some people?
Yeah, I really do. I think that one of the things is, to me, I believe is a very important aspect behind that is the environment in which somebody is raised. I think they're probably more perceptible to that and have that ability to do that because of the way that they were raised and the things that were held important to them. So they're trying to, or they've taught themselves, or they've been taught to look for those things and to be able to use certain aspects of their mind, their spiritualness, to connect with that. So yeah.
So I know you have a chapter in your book where you talk a little bit about like a man who thought he was going through sleep paralysis. Can you tell me a little bit more about that story? I was really intrigued. I'm someone who struggles with sleep paralysis like every other night, so that was kind of creepy and scary. Yeah,
and it's I think sleep paralysis is something that it's probably fairly more common than a lot of people to realize, because I mean, I've talked to other friends and stuff too. This, I think I was asleep, but this happened to me. Well, that particular story that you're talking about, it was late one night when I came home, and he's going to bed, but he takes a shower, gets ready to go to bed. The wife and the baby are in another room, so he goes into the back room to sleep, to not disturb them, and lays down, and he's facing the wall, not the door, and he hears these footsteps coming down the hall, and he thinks that it's his wife coming to check on him or whatever. But then the footsteps start running now, and then the next thing you know, they jump on him and they're holding him down, and he can't move. He's just completely frozen. He's screaming in his mind, but nothing is coming out of his mouth. He can't talk. He's just paralyzed, and he's for maybe 10, 15 seconds, and he's just struggling with everything he's got. And then all of a sudden it's gone. It's off of him, and he's looking around. There's nothing there. And he said he's wide awake this entire time. Now, I've talked to other people that have that very similar experience, that they're being held down, and they can't move, and it's very frightening.
Yeah, and that's exactly my experience every night. With me, it happens where like I'll see like I can only describe it as a shadow person. That's like, I see it climbing on the ceiling, and then it'll drop on me and hold me down, and and then 1 second to the next, it just disappears completely.
Yeah, that's a terrifying experience, and I think and you look back, and there's a lot of stories throughout history about that same thing, the old hag syndrome. That's what that is. And like I said, I think a lot of people actually experience that and maybe not realize that's what's happening. That's sleep paralysis, and it can be very frightening.
Oh yeah. I mean, in Mexico, we say the dead guy's on you. The dead guy's sleeping on you.
Yep, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Do you think this from a listener? Do you think there's some overlap with this succubus literature with these kind of experiences? He was thinking that maybe it does, but he's not sure.
Yeah, I would think so too, because like we were talking earlier, I think every story and every myth or anything like that has some basis of reality, right? So I think a lot of that does. See that another one there, it says that held down by the shadow. the old hag, the old hag syndrome. It's a very common thing that's happened. So, yeah.
Definitely creepy. I mean, one of the worst experiences ever.
Yeah, I would imagine. So how often does this happen for you?
Oh God, you know what? I've noticed it peaks when I'm really stressed. But it happens pretty often. I mean, at least once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that I talked to, he says it's not happened very often, but when it does, it's very, very real. And
God, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he said, never sleeping. I swear I'm not asleep. I never fell asleep, but yet I'm wide awake this entire time. But yeah, it's just terrifying.
Yeah, and I feel like that's definitely the worst part of all, because I'll be like awake and like I can see my whole room, I can see Alex sleeping right next to me and I can't move, I can't, ask for help, I can't do anything. So yeah, definitely terrible. And I think someone in the comments said I have a demon attached to me, and I've heard that before. Like I've been told that. For a while there, I had a shadow person follow me around. And it seemed like even if I had like 5 years where I was moving every single year because this thing was just following me everywhere I went. And then I got like a cleanse done in Mexico by my family, and so far so good right now. But yeah, sleep paralysis is the one thing that remains. So if anyone in the comments knows what I can do to anything's appreciated.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed this part of the conversation. Did you have anything she could do, Paul? Have you heard of anyone having success getting rid of this?
No, I've talked to some folks that have had a medicine man come into the home and smoke the home off and them and do smudge ceremony and stuff, but it's not completely worked. So
So it sounds like it maybe helped a little bit, but not completely.
Right.
So I see Lori says, can I talk? Does she mean like during a sleep paralysis? Okay, I don't know. How long has it been? Oh my God. For probably now it's going on 7 years. 7, 8 years. It started when I was pregnant, like crazy enough. But yeah.
But does it does it seem to get more intense, or has it lessened up in the intensity of it?
Like I said, like it has lessened the intensity, but like I don't see the shadow people anymore at all. That completely went away after the cleanse, but the sleep paralysis is what just does not leave me alone.
Right.
Yeah. And like it's like a thing where I feel like I'm fighting for my life every single night, or not every single night, but like pretty often. And then when I do wake up, I'll scare Alex because I'm like screaming bloody murder when I finally can get it off me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you say can you talk during the experience?
No, I can't. Well, like I fight for it. Like, I feel like something's holding me down and just I can't get it off me. And I'm trying to scream. Like I try. I just feel like my voice is trapped.
Yeah, and that's the same theme throughout the people that I've talked to as well. Yeah. Is their mind is still very active, very alive, very aware of everything that's going on, yet they cannot do anything to move their body or tongue or anything.
Yeah, and like for me too, it's any open door is terrible for me. Like I sleep, we have to close every single door in the house, like closets, the bathroom door, bedroom door, everything. Cause like that's my most recurring sleep paralysis is I'll see like this very creepy figure come through the door or like peek at me through an open door and then come on top of me, or like it'll creep from the door to the ceiling, and closed doors just seem to help more. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was also told to never put a mirror in front of my bed. Like that was also not helping.
Do mirrors have any significance in any of these tribes, as far as them being magical or I've heard like just in other places that there are places, I don't know, where like, yeah, like what you said, like they're like portals.
Oh, like mirrors act as like ports to the spiritual realm. Yeah, I've heard that many times. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I've heard that same thing, and I'd like to explore that just a little bit more, but at the same time, it's kind of a scary world to even try.
I know. Right? Oh yeah, that's why I haven't tapped on it.
Exactly.
So I think Dr. D. Mitchell here says, I may have missed this. Do you think there is an inciting event that started the sleep paralysis? Yeah, like I don't know how much I like believe in this or not, but while I was pregnant, I had somebody deliver this like small package in front of like I just went outside one day outside my house in Mexico, and there was this small package filled with like what we call brujeria, or like a witch's magic kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And it had like it had feces in it, it had like chicken feet, it had hair, it had like burnt paper, like all the signs of witchcraft, at least where we're from and what we believe in. But yeah, I don't know. That's why my family did the cleanse.
So basically,
yeah, I didn't touch it because I was like, I'm not gonna deal with this. I've heard stuff. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I've heard things like that too, and I've also talked to elders and stuff. Said you really need to find the most powerful medicine man that you can to be able to make you a medicine to ward this off, because and that's the thing within the Cherokee tribe, the witches and their different curses and things that they can put on you and stuff. Most medicine men can see them, but you necessarily cannot see, that witch, like the Raven Mocker, for instance. That's one that you can't see, or they can disguise themselves as a family member or something like that. But a strong medicine man is able to see through that disguise. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Definitely interesting. I did see the previous one. From Paranormal.
Still get hitchhikers after Bigfoot encounters.
Huh, I don't know what
do you think he's getting at, Paul?
I'm not sure. Hitchhikers, huh? I don't know.
Do you want to clarify that, Todd?
Oh, someone asked. Oh, there you go.
You want to?
How are medicine men chosen, and how do they reach that status? I don't know. I mean, it's different. I think it varies by culture, right? Like,
yeah.
My great grandfather was a shaman, and he was just taught by his ancestors, and it succeeds back. I don't know in your culture, Paul, if it's different than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, they're taught from a very young age by other medicine men, and it's kind of passed down, but it's not a guaranteed thing from from generation to generation.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, because some of them are. Well, I guess in a way they are chosen by that particular medicine man, whether or not they have the strength and the fortitude to learn that and to become what they need to be, for their teachings. So I guess in a way, yeah, they are chosen.
Definitely.
So I think what the earlier listener was saying was that basically these things come home with them, or they follow them. Have you heard about that? Like, someone has an encounter and suddenly they're having encounters around their house or, nearby. Like this thing followed them back to their place.
Yeah, I've actually talked to a few people that have that very thing, because even though and a lot of people think that, if it could be due to I don't want to use the word haunting, because the word itself, I think, just has a different stigma to it. But I don't think it's necessarily to place. I think it's more to people, because like we talked about before, people are more perceptible than others. So I think it's something that that somebody can carry with them, and it's not necessarily to the place.
So you're saying if you're haunted, it's not as easy as selling the house. You got a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Deborah was asking, Paul, do you have any Dogman tales?
That's very interesting. In the Cherokee, we really don't have any Dogman tale. And what's really fascinating, though, like I said before, we don't really have any Bigfoot stories to speak of, other than the one that Mooney had talked about in his book of Sacred Formulas. And that one, all the elders that I've talked to and the other Cherokee language speakers that I've talked to said that's, even though there's a lot of striking similarities to Bigfoot, that's not a story of Bigfoot. But every one of them have a little bit different tale about what that story is really about. Is it about a great hunter, or is it about doing, what you're told, what you're asked to do, because in the end of it, it's about the village themselves, that when one person breaks the rule, it punishes the entire village, and maybe that's the essence of the story. You have to come together and live more harmoniously and work together. But if you've got that one, just that one person, that one bad apple, I guess, can run the rest of the cart, right? So
yeah, for sure. Oh, so someone here said, smudge your home with sage, open every drawer and door. Yeah, I think we did that once already too. Yeah, I've heard sage is very good for, shooing away spirits.
Yep. Yeah, and we use sage, but cedar is probably the most, I think, one of the most powerful that we use here. And I think that comes from, from our ancestral homelands too, the Tennessee, Georgia, the Smoky Mountains, that area there, you're going to find more cedar than you would sage. So.
Oh, okay, cedar. Yeah, we should try cedar maybe around the house.
That'd be worth it.
Yeah.
Definitely worth a shot.
Yeah. I think we've only had one encounter here since we've been in this house. I stayed here alone one day, and I kept hearing someone pacing back and forth in my hallway. And then I heard like everyone was opening every single drawer in the house. Like I had to call Alex to come back and like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just ripped his headphone off. You can tell I'm a newbie at this. But yeah, Alex had to come home from work because, to check on me, because I thought somebody had broken into the house,
Right.
And it was nothing. We had to like burn sage afterwards. And
yeah, it's very similar here. Open all the windows, open the doors, open every drawer, all of that. Just so that evil spirit can't have a place to hide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, then that's the other thing, like we were talking earlier, like, how do you even know if it's evil or not,
Exactly.
Because, I mean, besides the sleep paralysis, it really hasn't been anything harmful.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly scary.
Yeah.
Lori was saying you have to smudge the sage or the cedar the right way.
Oh, am I accidentally making it worse? Lori, we gotta talk later. You gotta show me some things. Paul, you're gonna talk later.
You gotta get certified. You gotta watch like a Udemy course. You can't just be.
We gotta do a couple cleanses here.
Yeah.
Just be stuff blind.
Wikipedia, no, yeah.
Well, that's one of the things here. When the Cherokee Nation builds a home for someone, that's one of the ceremonies that we go out and do is that smoking off ceremony. And it's generally cedar, but it's a very important thing. To first of all to make that person feel very comfortable with that house, but we have some very good medicine men within our tribe that we know and that can do these things. But it's important to us.
Yeah. Oh my God, definitely. And I think it's very interesting how, like, even though we have, totally different cultures, different locations and everything, like a lot of these traditions are still the same, and the beliefs in spirituality and higher beings and
Right.
yeah. Very amazing. Use black salt if sage and cedar aren't enough. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of remedies out there.
In just this field in general, broadly speaking, Bigfoot, paranormal, UFOs, if there's one thing you could get people to understand or at least consider, what would it be?
Oh, that's tough, but I think one of the things that I try to talk to a lot of people about is having an open mind, and with that, open yourself up to the world of possibilities. Don't think in concrete terms, because it's not a black and white world, obviously. There's a lot to it that we just don't understand. And if you can get anybody even interested in any of these topics, that's the most important thing I think you can do is enter into it with a blank slate, and try to absorb as much information as you can before you really make any judgment calls. When I interview people, that's you don't want to be judgmental right off the bat. So
yeah,
be open-minded.
You want to wait a while to get judgmental.
Before you get older and cranky and just opinionated.
Yeah, open minds. No.
What do you think of the generations? Do you think we're becoming more disconnected from the spiritual? Do you think we're becoming more closed-minded as science becomes more and more prevalent to where do you think people are starting to feel like, well, we've got it all figured out? Almost arrogant, maybe.
So. I think there's a lot to that because I think people are so I hate to say it like this, but self-absorbed because of that cell phone interface all day. And they're so disconnected from the real social world. Social media is it's not real. There's times when you've got to put that smartphone down because it ain't so smart. And just get into the real world again and start interacting.
Yes. After this interview, not right now. This is important, guys. But after, please put the phone down.
But that's important, I think, though.
Yeah. I think
for sure.
Make time for that.
How have you balanced that? Do you have like just periods of time where you'll engage? Obviously, as an investigator and an author, I imagine maybe you feel pressure to use some of this if nothing more than to get the word out. But how do you not let this take over your life?
Oh, that's been the struggle is real. Because it is one of those things where a lot of times at night when I get home, it's just I need to disconnect, period. And just put it all away and just go out into the woods, go for a walk, walk barefoot. Connect with the earth again. And re-energize with that. There's something to that. Take your shoes off and walk barefooted through the yard.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that we get away from that technology and the electronics and stuff and make sure that you have time, to realize where we come from.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Well, I thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been incredible.
It's been amazing.
You've been a gentleman, a scholar. This has been fascinating. We would love to have you on again.
Yes.
But before we wrap things up, what's the best place for people to connect with you, reach out, find your work? I just want to say, please, everyone, check out his book. It's on Amazon. Bigfoot, UFOs, and the Paranormal, True Encounters. You've got other books as well. But please, what's the best way to people to find your work and learn more about?
Yeah, right now, the best place is right there on Amazon, where you can find all the different works and stuff. And there's more to come after that one there, because I've got so many more interviews that I'm sorting through to put into volumes 2 and 3. And my email is right there too. I love hearing from folks because so many people have had so many fantastic experiences and stuff, and want to get that story out there and want to tell somebody, talk to somebody. So reach out to me at pgbuckner@yahoo.com. I'll love to hear from folks, and you absolutely find all my stuff right there on Amazon.
Well, thanks again, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Good night, everyone, and take care.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Call
it.
you up in the middle of the night, been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary love we got going on. I'll pick you up in my 59 Ford. We head on down the road until we get bored. Just you and me and the sun and the wind. If the rain should start falling, we'll head on home again. Everybody else can see where we belong. Oh, ain't no ordinary love we got going on. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I'll pray they never can pull us apart, and I'll wait for the time when we'll be together every day. But I know if ever we'll be led astray, that I'll find my way back home to you again. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I pray they never can pull us apart, and